Yeah. Now, did we discuss any auto-aware annotation? Yes, yes. Now we completed this one also, right?
Yeah, లాస్ట్ కొంచెం డిస్కస్ చేసినాం.
We apply చేసామా మనం auto-aware annotation?
Mm,
Okay, we apply. We see that. Yeah, we applied. Now, by using auto-wire annotation, now we can wire the dependent object automatically. Just we need to mention that auto-wire annotation. That's it. Okay, this address is wiring automatically with the employee class. Okay. Now, here the point is like we are worrying about like the jar files. Okay, now whatever the jar files here, we have the reference jar files like I shared right now. Okay, here we have like around like 20 jar files we have. Okay, now as a developer, first we need to search like each and every jar file. Okay, it will take a lot of time to like searching the jar file. Even though if you are searching the jar file, simply first we need to select that version and then we need to test that version. Okay, the version is not success. Simply again we need to search like one more version and we need to do all these things. Okay, now we here without like even though we don't have any idea about like names also like too much. Okay, now that's why the Maven is entered into the picture. Okay, now what are the project we did like here? The same project I am going to execute by using Maven. Okay, the same project we are going to go with like execute Maven, and we can remove that XML part and we can add Java part and we can remove the Java part and we can go with like finally that annotation today. Okay, now here what is a Maven basically here? The Maven is what it's a build tool. Okay, in the market we have like Ant and Maven and Gradle we have. Okay, everything is like that build tool only. Okay, now mostly the companies are using the Maven, some companies are using Gradle, both are same. Okay, both are same. Like compared to that Ant, now like that Maven and Gradle, like the building tool is just more like it will build like more like properties. Okay, the build tool in the sense what it will build. Okay, now it will build that project structure. Okay, it will build up the project structure. Okay, now here if you want to test that, now we need to create like the test files, all these things. Now you don't need to worry about like the testing that project. Now you can write your own code in that project. Okay, automatically it will test it. Okay, now you can deploy directly into that like cloud or simply like any remote repository also. Like basically in the Maven, we have the three types of repositories. We have local repository. Okay, now central repository and a remote repository. Okay, now what does it mean by local? Okay, if you observe our project like jar files, I'm going to taking from the local. Okay, means I downloaded from the central. That's okay. Central in the sense like it's a Google only. Okay, central in the sense like it's a Google. Now I downloaded once. Like once I downloaded, I am going to get the jar files from that our local machine only. Okay, the local machine, simply that local repository, we can say that. Okay, now here central in the sense like the Google. Now what about like a remote repository? Okay, some companies are like whenever as a developer we join in the company, like we are not going to search like any jar files in the Google. Okay, they mention some kind of remote repository like Git and GitHub, all these things they mention. Okay, they're going to share with you like the GitHub link, and there from like you can download the jar files required to your project. Okay, that is a remote repository. Like even though the remote repository we can call same as like central repository. Why in the sense like we are going to call once you download it from the remote repository, again it will go into store in the local repository. Simply we can say that in our mission. Okay, now if you observe, see, like Maven is a powerful project management tool that is based on the POM. POM in the sense like a project object model. Okay, even though like that 2 3 years of experience person, they're going to ask like what is the observation for the POM. Okay, the entire project, the POM is like heart. Okay, now POM is heart of that application. Without POM, simply we cannot do anything. Okay. Now simply where we can store our jar files, all these things simply now mention. We need to mention the jar files like in the PALM only. Like it is like XML, PALM.xml file is there. Okay, that's why project object model. Now it is used to projects build dependency and a documentation. Okay. Now I told you like it will build the projects. Then what about like dependency? Okay. Now till now we are worried about like that these jar files. Okay. If I don't have any idea like how to get the jar files, all these things, simply we don't need to worry here. We have some central repositories there, or simply we can say that Yummy repository or Maven repository is there. From there you can select now. Like you want like Spring Core, or you want Hibernate, or you want like JPA, you want like in any database drivers. Okay, now we can search in the Google and we can get it. Okay, now that's about like the dependencies. Till now we call it a jar files, but here we can call the dependencies. Okay, the documentation, the project documentation also we can do that by using the Maven project. Okay, now see, it simplifies the build process, the project build process like Ant is also same thing. Okay, but it's too much advanced than Ant. Like the Maven is like too much advanced than Ant. That's why we are using that mostly Maven. Okay, in short terms, now we can tell the Maven is a tool that can be used for the building and managing any Java-based project. Okay, any type of Java-based project, now we can build with a Maven only. Like even it's a Spring Boot or even some microservices like Inti, we can build that Maven project only. Okay, now the Maven make to the day-to-day work of Java developers easier and generally help with that comprehension of any Java-based project. Okay, now we can do that anything. Okay, now we can deploy, we can documentation, we can add the dependencies, we can do anything whatever we want like within a less time. Okay, we don't need to worry about like that to create the project structure, all these things. Okay, yeah. Now like that here we have the jar and var files. Like jar and var in the sense like jar in this is like whatever we are getting. Var in this is like through the network we can send the jar files. Okay. Now we don't need to write like any scripting also here. Like without doing any scripting, now we can get that var files and jar files. Okay. But in the case of like DevOps and all these things, simply we need to write the scripting. Okay. Now this is about like how the Maven works in a sense simply. Like here, the Maven will do read the pom.xml file and download the dependencies defined in the pom.xml file. Whatever the pom.xml file we mentioned, the dependencies automatically downloaded into that local repository from the central or remote repository. Okay, from the central or remote repository. Now execute the life cycle phases. Okay, like plug in something. Okay, here we have different types of phases also. We have like build and like fetching, like initialization, all these things phases we have that matter. Okay, we have some differences, but here we can use some kind of commands like maven.clean, maven.install, maven.clean and install at a time. See, it will clean that and compile the Java project again. Okay, now Maven clean package to clean that, compile the Java project. Okay, now just give a second. Yeah, sorry. Now, these are the commands to use to interact with like a Maven commands, like to check that Maven test and whether the version, if you want to check it and install the Maven, all these things. But here we don't need to install like directly that Eclipse only we are going to get to create that Maven projects. Okay. Now, here I'm going to create like Maven project. Now, we can close all these things simply. If you observe, here we have the open perspective we have. Okay. Now by default, till now we are running that our application with Java only. Now we can select the Java EE right now. Okay. Now we are going to get the servers Java EE and open it. Okay. Right now I'm present in the like Java EE only. If I go with like Java here, that window is going to be a little bit changes. See. Okay. We don't have any server concept right now. Okay. We don't have any server concept. But in the case of like if I go with like Java EE, now see the servers is added. Okay. Right now we are not going to do like any servers. It will take care of everything. Now here we need to go to like file, new, like select a Maven project. Okay, selecting Maven project. Now here it is asking like we are using the same default work location. Now this work location you are using. Otherwise, simply if you want to go with like other create simple project or otherwise simply add workspace different project, you can select like remaining boxes. Okay, otherwise simply it is if you want to use like same work location, you can use the click on next button. Okay, now here is the main things here. If you observe like bottom right corner, like retrieving architect types. Now here this is the most important point here, which version we need to select. Okay, now here we can select the quick start version. Okay, now this Maven is related to like a Apache organization. Okay, here we have the many architect types. Okay, then which archetype we need to select? Okay, now we need to filter it. Like we need to select with the Maven related thing. Okay, Maven related we need, and again like quick start version we need. Okay, here we can see like version also. Which version this is like here we can see that quick start version. Okay, now here we cannot see like we cannot read this many names, right? Now that's why in the filter, okay, in the filter we can search now org dot okay apache dot maven dot. If you observe, I hope like we got something. Now see here org dot apache dot maven dot like archetypes. Okay, now here archetype simply we can artifact id, we can artifact id, we can select the quick start version, select this version and click on the next. Okay, now it is asking like that Maven project details. Okay, group id is the same as like package name. Okay, the group id is same as like project name, sorry, like package name in the project. Artifact id your project name. Okay, now spring Maven demo. Okay, now us underscore sept I can write it. Okay, now here package is too much lengthy. Like it's a combination of like package as well as like project name. Now we don't need this much lengthy like package. Now we can remove up to this one. Okay, just keep it like that. Okay, now click on the next. Now whenever I click on the finish, now in the console automatically it will downloading the it will creating the project. Okay, now here finish it. If you observe, see the quick start version like the 33% is downloading the project is created like scanning for the projects. Okay, see, downloading from the central repository. Did you observe? It is taking some time. Building Maven stub project. No palm right now. Like here,
Yeah,
one by
yes, Anna.
loading. Yeah, see, it is asking like that everything is created. Artifact ID like Spring Maven demo underscore set like group ID is com demo and version is like 0.0.1 slam stop like package com demo. Like if you want to create the project in the sense, yes. Why? You can enter why. It will create the project the build success. Okay, the project is created. If you observe now till now whatever the project is created, it's a little bit different. Now we need to search what is spring maven demo. Yeah, here see it. Okay, it's a, if you observe like on that symbol we have m. So for the maven. Okay, for the gradle we have that elephant symbol is there. Okay, it is a it is a gradle. Okay, it's a maven. Okay, now yeah, now see here, this is our project structure. Okay, the Maven dependencies here, the dependency is jar files. Okay, I didn't add any jar files here. We got like already JUnit test cases. The test related, like JUnit test related, like all these things we got. But I didn't like download it anything. Okay, at the time of project is creating, automatically the JUnit related jar files is there. Okay, I told you like the POM, okay, project object model. Now if you open this one, see we can see that the dependencies we mentioned here. Okay, now here, here we can mention like, this is a JUnit Jupyter API and again like JUnit to Jupyter params. Okay, now we didn't download automatically, it's downloaded. Okay, here also we need to mention here we are working with like Spring Core and Spring Context. Okay, Spring Core is related like that without annotation. The Spring Context is like with annotation. Now here already we started the annotation, right? Hmm. Okay, now just to give a second.
Sure, Baba.
Yeah. There we are. Like, okay, here also we can add the Spring Core and Spring context to the dependencies. Okay, now if you observe here, like src slash test.java, here we can test our, we can write our test files here. Okay, if I execute here, right click, run as a JUnit test. We can test our code also. Like the build success here. If the test case is success, now we got like green color. But suppose I'm going to mention like a false. Okay, controllers. We can see like some JUnit also, if it's possible. Now right click on JUnit test. Now the test case is failed. See here. Okay. Now like this, we are going to get the test cases. But right now we don't need it anything. Now where we can write our Java files, simply src slash main slash Java. Now here we can write our Java files. Okay. Now app.java. By default it's created. I didn't create anything. Okay. Right click, run as Java application. Okay. Now it's created. Now here we don't need like this file also. Simply I can delete this one. Okay. Yeah. Uh, the point is what here we are going to execute this exact project into here, right? Then before going to that, we need the jar files, like whatever the jar files we added, but we don't need to add from like local. We are going to get from the center. Okay, in the sense Google. Now first we need to search in the Google. We need to paste here in the dependencies. Now here, go to Google and search for. We need like for Spring Core and Spring Context the dependency we need. Okay, now Spring Core Maven dependencies here. Enter. Did you observe like Maven repository or MVN repository also? We can say that if you observe like this icon, MVN repository, click on the first link. Okay. Now it is a Spring Core. I search for the Spring Core. Now here we have the versions and we have the usages. Okay, we can select that highest usages. Okay, right now we are going to use like 6 versions. Okay, now you can select whatever you want, but like I'm going like highest usages right now, like 577, 622, 652. 915, like 915. This is the highest, I think. Like I can select the 5.3.20. I hope like we need to select the same other versions of Spring Context also. We need to select like CL. Now this for the Maven. If you want to work with like Maven, if you want to go with like Gradle, you can select like this one. See here. This for the Gradle. Okay. Now we are working with the Maven, right? Now we can select the Maven. Control copy. Control C. Now go to your pom.xml file. See here. Go to your pom.xml file. Now here, after this dependencies here, dependencies is the root tag, dependency is the child tag. Okay. Now we are adding the child tags only. Give some space. Okay. Give some space. Now you can copy paste it here. Now sir, we paste it here. If you observe Maven dependencies right now here, already these are the previous jar files, but the Spring Core jar files are not added. Why? In the sense I didn't save any file. Okay. I didn't save this file. Okay, I didn't save this file. Now simply Control S, save the file. If you observe here, the Spring Core related jar files is added. Okay, now I want to go to like Spring Context also, right? Now here also you can search for the Spring Context. Enter. Now you can open the first link. Okay, now you can go to the same version. That will be the better. If you go with like other versions, simply it will be little bit effect, like we can go like 1152. 3.21. Okay, now you can select this version, control copy. Now after this one you can paste it, control V, control S. Here, how many jar files? 1 2 3 4 5 6. 6 jar files is enough for that. Why the Maven is chosen? But if you want to download ourselves, simply see this many jar files we need to download. Okay, now here the Spring Core and Spring Context here. Okay, now the jar files is done. Okay, we don't need to worry about it. Now the same project, I'm going to copy it. Now here paste it. Client copy and paste it in the com.demo. Okay, employee copy, like paste in the com.demo. Okay, now spring config.xml copy and paste in the src. Okay, paste in the src. Yeah. Now we can close this. Now I'm going to execute it. Now see here, right click, run as Java application. Now see the we executed perfectly with the Maven. Okay, this is our project. Now we executed Maven. Okay, now we executed with the Maven. Okay, now my requirement is what? As a Java developer, we are not working with like more that XML way. Okay, now we are not working with like more XML way. Then we'll go with the Java way. Why? As a Java developer, we are not using mostly like XML. Okay, as well as we are using like we wrote like more number of lines of code, around like the 30-40 lines of code, and we need to remember like this the formulas also we need to represent like access information. Now I am going to delete this file. Okay, now for suppose simply if I comment this one, control A and the control comments, or like I can comment this one, simply I can delete this file simply. That will be the better. Okay, now if I delete this file, can I work? Is it possible? Okay, now if I execute, can I get the output right now without XML? Now, why in a sense, this class path XML application context is looking for that XML file only, but we deleted, right? Okay, we don't have any like information about like that dependency injection. Then from where we can inject it? Okay, we don't have any XML file. Okay, now that's why we'll go with the Java way. Now simply after 16th line, simply I can comment the 15th line. Okay, we'll go with like Java way. Okay, now in the Java way, the same container application context. Okay, application context. Now factory is equal to new. Okay, annotation config application context. Okay, now this will be the different. Here we can mention the Java class. Okay, now my class name is like app config. Sorry. Okay, app config dot class. We need configuration file, right? That's why I created one Java class. Okay, till now we are using like only the XML. Okay, we avoided as a Java developer, we avoided XML. Okay, now right now we are going with like Java way. Java way, this is like it's a class only. But do we have any app config dot class file here? No. We have an address, we have the client, and we have like employee, but we don't have any like app config dot class. Now place the cursor. Now see here, if you scroll down, create a class. Okay, now finish it. The class is created. Okay, this is configuration file. But if you observe, it's not a configuration file, it's a normal class only. Okay, it's a normal class only. Now I can say that our configuration like XML file is a this file is what configuration file. But here it is a normal, it's a class only, right? Then how I can say it is a configuration file? Now above this class, okay, above this class, add the data configuration annotation we can use. Okay, add the data configuration annotation. Now this annotation, okay, this class, okay, this class will act as a like configuration class. Okay, configuration class because of this configuration. Okay, now because of this configuration annotation, this app config class is act as a configuration file. That's why in the client, okay, it is asking that configuration file information. That's why I provided the app config.class. Okay, now here we need to provide that dependency injections, right? Yes or no? Like we need to provide like employee bean. Okay, we need to provide like employee bean, and we are using the bean tag earlier. Like we need to use like address bean. The both beans object we need to provide it. Then how we can provide the Java way? Okay, if it is Java way, we are going to write the logic in the form of like methods only. Now here we are going to create like method. Okay, now I'm going to create like for that employee B public. I want to return employee like a get employee. Okay, now if it is a Java, simply we need to create object. Okay, now we are creating object. Even if it's a Spring, we are creating objects here. Now, employee emp is equal to new employee. Okay, now emp dot set emp id. Okay, now 678. like emp dot set emp name Karthik. Now again emp dot set emp salary. Okay. Now here finally this class is return emp object only. Observe carefully here. Okay. If we want to create the container wants to create like object of employee class, then how it will create? Okay. Now we need that bean ID, right? Employee ID we need. But did I mention any bean tag? Okay, here we are using the Java class, but how I can mention the bean tag here? Okay, we cannot mention the bean tag. Now, whatever the XML, okay, now within the XML, whatever the bean tag here we have, okay, this bean tag is converting in Java the bean annotation. Okay, the bean annotation for what? Employee bean I want at the data bean annotation. Okay, Control Shift to O. Now, what is the ID for this class? Simply, I can use Satya. Okay, see here, this Satya is ID is equals to in the client class. I mentioned the get bean Satya. Okay, if you want to use a say different name, you can use it. No issues on that. Okay, now we need to provide like address bean also, right? Okay, now public address get address. Now here we can create like address class object address add is equal to new address. Okay, add dot set colony. Now add dot set house number like something add dot set pin code. Okay, I think like house number is like in that into format 50074. Okay, now here we need to provide like address bean also, right? Now at the rate bean. Now sorry, like it's a capital B bean. Now here we can provide that add. Okay, now we can mention anything. Here this address class is return like add. That's it. Okay, now we provided the two class information like the bean of employee we provided and the bean of address we provided. Okay, now if you observe, okay, then how this bean is going to be scanned at wiring of address. ఓకే ఇప్పుడు ఎంప్లాయ్ అనేది అడ్రస్ కి వైర్ అవ్వాలంటే మనకు ఆటో వైర్ అనోటేషన్ కావాలి. మరి ఆటో వైర్ అనోటేషన్ ఎక్కడుంది? ఎంప్లాయ్ క్లాస్ లో ఉంది. ఓకే, కానీ ఈ కంటైనర్ అనేవాడు ఎక్కడుంది? ఓన్లీ యాప్ కాన్ఫిగ్ క్లాస్ లోనే సెర్చ్ చేస్తాడు. మరి ఎలా? ఎక్కడ ఆటో వైర్ అనోటేషన్ ఉందని ఎలా తెలుస్తుందంటే, now whenever that container is searching for that auto wire annotation, here above this configuration class we can mention at the rate of component scan. Okay, the component scan, it will scan the entire package, where we mentioned like auto wire annotation. Okay, now we can mention the com.demo is a common package. Okay, in this package it will search at all the classes. Now where you mention that auto wire annotation, it will wire that employee with address. Okay, now here it will go that employee, here it will search. Okay, now simply you can comment this auto wire here, comment the byte type, we'll go with the byte type. Okay, now control S. Now go to that app config, now client, now right click, run as Java application. I can execute simply here. Now see here we got output like Karthik and 67 some salary, some address, we got it. Okay, now by using Java, now we executed here. Why? I provided an extra class. Observe carefully here. In the XML also we wrote like same lines of code, right? Then what is the difference between like XML and Java? Okay, the thing is what you want to reduce that less number of lines of code. That's why you entered into the Java code. Then again you are writing the same lines of code. Then what is the use? Okay, that's why I can comment like all this code. We don't need it. Okay, I will go with like directly annotation way. Okay, annotation way. Now here I can comment like this Java way also. Now I can go with like annotation way. Okay, now also carefully here. Even though now it is also like application context. Now factory is equal to new annotation configure application context. Now observe carefully here. Here, every time you need to provide like configuration file. That's it. That's mandatory. But we removed like XML configuration file and we removed like a Java class. We removed. Now here, observe carefully here. Our main class is a configuration file right now. Okay, we don't need to write separate configuration file. Our main class is what? Our main file is what? Configuration file. Now simply here, client dot class. Okay, if it is our class is main class in the sense like we need to provide at that configuration annotation here. Okay, again at that components can also we need to provide it. Oh sorry, component scan. Now here we need to scan that com.dem. Okay, now everything is okay, but we need like employee bean, right? Okay, now we need like Satya. From where I will get Satya? We need like employee object. Okay, then who will create that? The bean. Okay, now in the XML way we are using the bean tag. In Java way we are using like bean annotation. Then how I will get that employee bean right now? Okay, now observe carefully here. We can use one annotation for that employee object creation above the employee class. Okay, above the employee class. Now add the data component we need to create it. Okay, this component we can write like the lowercase of employee. Even if you don't need to write, we can write it. Okay, the lowercase of class name we can write it employee is a bean. Okay, add the data component. It will create object of employee class. Okay, now it will create object of employee class. Okay, now what is the employee bean ID? Employee only. Now go to the client class, you can use that employee lowercase. Okay, now we need like address bean also, right? We need to create it. Now above the address, now you can go with that component, you can use it. Okay, above this component you can use like address or lowercase address, we need to write it. Control S. Okay, if I executes here, now directly we are going to get output, but without data. I didn't mention any data. Data లేకుండా అవుట్పుట్ వస్తుంది చూడండి. ఓకే, మరి డాటా కావాలంటే మరి ఎలా? ఆల్రెడీ మనకు ఈఎంపీ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ వచ్చింది కదా, ఇక్కడనే సెట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. నా సింప్లీ ఈఎంపీ డాట్ సెట్ ఓన్లీ లైక్ నేను నేమ్ ఒకటి సెండ్ చేస్తున్నా లైక్ రాహుల్. Now right click, run as Java application. Now say we got like a Rahul, we got. If you want address, again we need to get that like address object also here. Now address LED is equal to factory dot. We are getting object address here. Address యొక్క ఆబ్జెక్ట్ మనం డైరెక్ట్ గెట్ చేస్తున్నాం, మనం క్రియేట్ చేయట్లేదు ఇక్కడ. Get bean. Okay, now lowercase of address class. Okay, we need to typecast with that address. Okay, you can mention any value for that address. Now set colony or set the pin code. Okay, now here whatever the address you added, we need to enter into that emp dot set address, like add. That's right. Oh sorry, oh we are getting error. Okay, this add need to be out of the box. Here we can write it. That is a little better. Right click, run as Java application. Okay, now we got Rahul and we got like pin code also. Okay, we can enter that all the data. Okay, now this way we can use that annotation. Our main class is acting as a configuration file. Okay, now it will scan the package by using component scan. If you want to create the beans, okay, our above the class, this component annotation is creating that object of employee bean. Okay, now here it will create that object of address bean, this component annotation. Okay, now tomorrow we are going to discuss. Now see, that's why we use like that XML way and Java way and annotation way. Okay, if you want to concise the code, we need to go with like annotation way. Okay, now tomorrow we are going to discuss like a Spring with JPA layered architecture. Okay, now I don't want to execute any project, simply existing projects we have. Why? In the sense like here we are not going to use like any like JPA like Spring with JPA. Okay, here the configuration issues are there. Okay, configuration is the main problem. Okay, I will execute line by line code with Spring Boot with JPA. Okay, now this one, now tomorrow we can complete like within less time, but like only that XML way part and the Java part I will explain. Okay, if you want to understand like tomorrow's code, the layered architecture, first you need to remember that JP layered architecture. Okay, you need to revise it first. Okay, then only you can understand why. In the sense, the number of files we can remove it. Whatever the JP layered architecture we did, like JP util class and some type of like XML configuration, everything we can remove it. Okay, now you can observe like the code, earlier code whatever we have. Okay, yeah, done for the day. Any doubts today?
యా నో అన్న మళ్ళీ రివైజ్ చేస్తాం జేపీఆర్ అదను ఇది.
ఓకే ఓకే ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఏం లేదు, మనం కోడ్ కన్సిడర్ చేస్తున్నాం అంతే. ఇప్పుడు మనం XML తీసేసి జావాకి వచ్చాం, జావాలో అయినా మళ్ళీ సేమ్ కోడ్ రాస్తాం, అందుకని చెప్పేసి annotation యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాం.
annotations.
ఓకే, ఇఫ్ యూ అండర్స్టాండ్ ద annotation we need the purpose. ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు బేసిక్ కొంతమంది అడగడం మాత్రం annotations మీదే ఫోకస్ చేస్తారు అనమాట. దట్స్ పాయింట్. Like what is the purpose of component annotation, what's the purpose of the configuration annotation, what's the purpose of like component scan annotation, what is the purpose of the bean and bean tag. Okay, why we are using the bean tag instead of the bean annotation. Okay, why we are using that bean annotation instead of the component. Okay, if you observe that bean tag and bean annotation and components annotations are three are doing the same thing, creating an object. Okay, creating the bean. Okay, the purpose is different, like that the different process we are using the same purpose. Okay, yeah, done, clear.
యా
Yeah, Baba.
అన్న
Yeah,
క్లియర్.
Baba.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll meet tomorrow.
యా
Okay, Baba.
బాయ్.
Yeah.